Now for the next portion of our session, it's a panel session. So I'd like to invite all the speakers back up to the stage and sit up here. So what we want to do is get a good discussion on implementing new technology for bridge preservation. At the start, I talked a little bit about innovation. It starts out with an idea, and that idea moves on to research and development, and that research and development moves on to demonstration. We saw a couple excellent examples of two very promising new materials today, but then you still have the challenge of full deployment, and that's what we want to talk about. Lorella gave a great talk about testing and certifications and special provisions and qualified products lists and all these things us owners put out there so we can have assurance that we're going to get a product that we're going to be happy with. But that also presents challenges for all of you in industry that are trying to bring these innovations to the street. So I do have a list of pre-canned questions. Jason has a microphone here, and I'd actually like to start. I gave you all assignment before we started to start thinking of your questions. So if you have a question or something that you want to get us started on, that could be the panel members or the audience, please raise your hand.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, so that was a great presentation regarding the QPL. I knew it was bad. I did not realize it was that bad until you just added the numbers up. But the problem that we have as agencies is we have to put all products into a category and then get them onto the QPL. And then once you're in that category, you pointed out that there is an issue of it's the contractors that are now selecting that product, and they're working to make a profit and low bid. And so does anyone have a suggestion on a system that could be changed where there's actually a selecting a product of interest or performance product? I guess what I'm trying to get at is once you're into a category, ODOT assumes, or any of the DOTs assume, all products in that category are equivalent. So if you're coming up with a new item or innovative tech, the key is to get into your own category, right? Because now there's a new category that you've defined. But once you're into that larger population, rapid setting concrete's a great example. There's a lot of products on everyone's QPLs for that. How do you stand out?
It's an excellent question, and in my discussion with you yesterday, you pointed out that if you want to be in your own category, then that's problematic as well because that limits the competition. So if you're looking for 3 competitive or compatible products, the same goes with the UHPC. So it does thwart innovation if somebody comes out with a new innovative product and then it doesn't have any competitors. How does that person have an opportunity to develop it? Either you fit yourself into a weird wrong category. I know when we started with the state of Florida, we went through a process and they suggested that we create a technical special provision for our technology, and with that, they were able to use that for certain specifications, and it wasn't specifically Phoscrete, for example, but they wanted to use one for a MALP concrete, and we happened to be the only MALP concrete, so it kind of fed toward our material. But the contractors, it's a hassle. Even though they say you just do A, B, and C, and they approve it, the contractors would rather go to choose a product that's already on the list. So I don't have necessarily an answer, but I see that that's a problem. Also, if you work with a contractor, they don't want to assume the liability. You go and tell them you've got this great new innovative product, and they say, that sounds great, we're really excited about it, but if we go to the DOT and say we want to use this innovative product and it doesn't work, then it's on them. If they choose a product off of the QPL and it doesn't work, then it's on the state. So there becomes issues with that.
Star system, like you do with Amazon products. Every product, every restaurant, they have a star system, and maybe the star system can be implemented through your crews.
So we've actually discussed this and started a database to kind of do this for bridge deck overlays. The problem is nobody wants to be able to take liability for a negative feedback. So it's okay to say positive things, which is okay, but if you only say positive, then you don't get the negative, right? So we've tried that, and But I like the idea.
So the other suggestion is to have some kind of qualification-based process instead of just low bid, and have qualifications and price considered. And spell out the things that you want them to actually address in the qualifications or in the proposal.
You can issue a system like Reddit. Do you know Reddit? Reddit, you have a fake name. So nobody can recognize you.
I don't know if anyone here is with that was involved in the deck matrix database. I was directly involved with why the liability being an issue where we could do a SCAR system on it.
Fuad Jaber, Nebraska Department of Transportation. Back to the question about, we do have a public interest letter. We provide for FHWA if that is a requirement, and we tell them that this product is important and it's probably new. We can tell them why we need it, and it's not, doesn't have a competitive because of maybe research or something like this. And usually they are very flexible of allowing us to use this product if it's a new innovative.
Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, we're going to be talking about the ITD program, which is an AASHTO TSP2 program. The intention is to document independently innovative technologies. It doesn't necessarily address the QPL specifically, but it does open up the opportunity for innovative products and services to come into market and be tested and evaluated, well, not really evaluated, but documented and reported independently of the manufacturer's case studies. So I encourage everybody to come and take a look at that because it may help to mitigate the same issue.
I just wanted to talk about which is an excellent thing, and try to get to that. But as far as the database that you were mentioning, there was too much concern about negative liability. You say, you can't say this product stinks, and because there could be a lot of reasons why it didn't perform for you. So it was agreed, this being a national working group, it was agreed that we would just have positive comments, what I'm using, why I like it, where I use it. But they do also have the contact information for the individual that's using that product. So you can get on the phone with him or email back and forth and discuss why you use that product and possibly why he is no longer using other products.
The concept of public-private partnerships, is there something in the product arena and the manufacturing arena that you're seeing with innovative products that public-private partnerships might benefit you and the departments with getting your material into the mainstream? Public-private partnership projects utilizing innovative materials.
So from a cost perspective, P3 has been tough for us because P3 is still based on a financing tool, and the financer wants to make the most money that they can make out of a project. Where I see a little more value is in design build, because the owner still kind of has the say-so in what design they're going to proceed with. So like Gil mentioned, you get the opportunity to propose your technical proposal plus some alternatives that you believe are superior for whatever reason. Maybe it comes at a slightly higher price. And then you leave it to the DOT and the engineers behind the DOT to make the executive decision if it's worth the extra money to get the extra benefit that you want. But out of P3, our experience has been that that cost still rules the road on that one.
I'm wondering if perhaps warranties might improve the willingness of agencies to take a chance on a product that they haven't used before, if they know that even in 5 years that they have an expectation that the product will either deliver as advertised or they will have some recourse.
Yeah. I think that's a good question even in itself, warranties. We can discuss that both from the owner side and industry side.
I like warranties. For example, in Michigan, we have 2 specifications for our thin epoxy overlay on our bridge decks. One has a list of all the approved products, and the other one has just a base specification of what that product has to meet with no list of what specific manufacturer or brand they have to use. but they do have to give us a 5-year warranty.
Well, and what was said is they're expensive, and that has to be taken into consideration with the owners of, once we do a warranty, then we have to, go back and check on that, and we have to have resources to do that. And in Michigan, we are audited to make sure that we're actually doing it.
For me, from a supplier perspective, I think we would be willing to go with the warranty route, but the complication that we have is ultimately the warranty is based on the contractor installing the material properly. So if they do not install it properly, or if the designer maybe is using the material in the wrong way, and then it tries to get pinned back on us, we're kind of backed into a tough corner because it wasn't really the material's fault, it was how it was being applied or how it was being designed. So I think the language would have to be written in such a way that we would feel comfortable ensuring a warranty. And we have done that on past projects successfully. It just has to be produced in the proper manner.
And the comment here was a 100-year warranty as a joke, but we actually dealt with that in, establishing warranties on how long of a warranty you can do. And I'm really forgetting the terminology. Is it bonding, that they have to be bonded for that time? And, companies just can't do that. So I think the thought process we had with warranties is, okay, look at, and it is a contractor installation issue, okay, how would it fail if it wasn't installed correctly? And that could be, just a 2 or 3, 6-month warranty or something like that, just to get you past that point.
Okay, I'll try to talk loud about it. I've been having warranty discussions lately here and back in my office. From the engineer's perspective, we can be held accountable for misapplying the product if it's not the right installation. For example, we specify a joint that is intended for a certain movement range. We either miscalculate the movement of the bridge, you get frozen bearings that contribute to additional movement, or you add skew in or something else that changes the behavior of the thermal movement of the bridge, and all of a sudden you're now being held accountable for specifying or misspecifying a product, and that may void a warranty. Now you have to police your own staff for the design end. You're policing the installation through inspection, and also making sure you have tech representation on site to protect the manufacturer. And the one who seems to kind of skate around this whole thing is the contractor. We got mostly good contractors. We got some who may expedite an installation because they're short on time. They'd rather take a chance on a warranty than get hit with certain limited damages. So everybody's got something at stake, and everybody has something to lose. And in the end, everybody can lose because warranties can be hard to enforce. I like warranties if everybody does what they're supposed to do. They're a tool that can be used to compensate those who are doing the right things.
Yeah.
But those who are not could be penalized, and that would be a fair system if we could implement it uniformly and properly at every level.
Yeah.
And that's the difficulty.
It is, and like everything else, success is in the details. And again, I think we have some, product suppliers here, and, to me, you do other qualification testing to approve products, and then warranties are proving to, trying to get a good installation.
Whistler from Kansas. What he said, I think earlier, we looked at this, and you almost have to go to maybe not a design build, but set design parameters, let the contractor select his product, and that way he's forced to do a service length, and then he's forced to set product and parameters between him and his supplier. I think that's the only way to keep us out of the liability of fighting between the two of them. Let them fight between each other. And I hate to say that, but that's kind of the way, I think it's the only way it's going to work for us.
Well,
Is you just set design parameters, and they can produce a product like a joint. You say this, it has to go through this movement, has to last this many years, and good luck.
Yeah. So would you call that a performance specification?
Yes, a performance
Yeah,
specification.
so let's talk performance specifications.
I understand your point about it being a relationship between the contractor and the supplier, but ultimately, the beneficiary of this is the driving public and the state and the ownership. So we're all looking for win-win-win situations here. The contractor wants to make money, the manufacturer wants to make money, and the state wants to be able to have, the owner wants to be able to have a road or a bridge that they can count on to last as long, if not longer, than was intended. So nobody wants to fight and nobody wants to point fingers, and sadly it happens a lot, and that's where it does, the person who's the judge on that is typically the inspectors of the state who come back and look and say, oh, this was an installation issue, this was a product issue. You guys do have your approved product lists in many cases, so if the contractor decided that a nice low-cost material was what they wanted to use, but it didn't meet the qualified product list of Kansas, for example, then whose fault would it be when it didn't work as it was expected to not work, because you guys wouldn't have accepted it in the first place? So,
We're looking at taking it even further where the contractor's responsible for his own QCQA, if we're gonna do it.
As I was saying when I stood up, that's all well and good, except if you don't use a product in the right installation for many reasons. Let's say it's a deck joint and you have frozen bearings, and maybe you don't even realize that. That's a reason why the product might not work up on the deck level. And it might not even be that those bearings are frozen now. They might freeze next year and cause a problem to that deck joint and make it not function the way it was intended. And there was no real blame anywhere other than the fact that a situation occurred that changed the rules. So this can go against everybody pretty badly in many cases.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if we're using a product in the wrong place, then everything breaks down. So that's understood. So how do we make sure it's used in the right place? Well, I think through conferences like this, through education, through demonstrations, and stuff like that. What technologies have you introduced in the last 2 to 3 years, and for maintenance or preservation? And what challenges are you having moving it to full deployment?
Well, certainly we just presented on the CGR, and we've been out promoting the product for a couple of years, and we're having some success in promoting the product, but getting into individual states is an uphill battle and certainly a time-consuming process. And we're trying to build on that. It's an innovation to an existing technology, but certainly it's a challenge to get to all the states, but the partnerships here and the regional approach and certainly this national approach is by far the best benefit we've seen in the ability to communicate based on if we had to do it alone in a state-to-state approach by ourselves without this partnership, it would be much, much more difficult for sure. So this is an excellent format for new and innovative products and certainly new technologies for sure.
So I believe the topic you said was any new technology coming out and struggles that we've had. So I've been in the industry 3 years now, so I'm relatively new to it. But when I first started, after about 1.5 years right out of college, I developed a product that is a low-temperature bridge deck overlay system. And so it's meant to be like a typical overlay system, but done in about half the time. So when it comes to getting it approved by DOTs, the struggle I've had is it's not getting approved because it doesn't meet the specification. But then they're unwilling to write new specification to fit it, kind of like you said, then you only have one product in that specification and there is no competition. So it's very discouraging for someone just out of college who's new into the industry and trying to be innovative to run into those barriers and not know how to surpass them. So I guess I'm just kind of looking for advice for someone who's new and learning all about this and how to present those kind of products to the DOTs in a way that they might be looked at with an open mind.
Well, I'll speak from the UHPC standpoint. We've been very fortunate to have kind of FHWA's backing, and not from a ductile standpoint, but from the technology standpoint. They saw that there was potential in this solution, and they were able to invest and do the appropriate research to validate it. And now they're on a 2-year deployment cycle where they're going around to state by state by state to talk about the technology, to encourage them to at least try it and see if it works for them. So I guess my advice for you, it's an uphill climb, definitely, but your biggest asset is to find someone in a government setting who will help be an advocate for you. And that's easier said than done, I understand that, but you gotta find someone who has the need for what you're selling. Pick out a bridge in the middle of nowhere, so if it doesn't go well, it's not a huge risk, and build off of that succession. And if it gets well enough adopted, you might get more backing behind other states and maybe even the federal highway to continue to push that technology.
Don't stop innovating, first of all. One of the things that we found when we first got started in this business back in 2009, reaching out to the DOTs, was that while you weren't necessarily on the approved product list and you weren't going to land giant jobs, most states' maintenance crews, their heavy bridge crews, were allowed to use a lot of different products. They don't have to tie themselves, thank you, they don't have to tie themselves to the QPL as rigidly as a contractor does. So I think it would really be a great way to help innovate if all the states, or most all the states, would open that up so that the maintenance guys would have an opportunity to try new and innovative products, report back in their maintenance meetings back to their states. And that leads to also the idea of having these maintenance meetings and inviting us as the industry to come in and talk about what we have to offer. And that way, at least you get something under your belt. That's how we got rolling in California, was we visited all 12 districts, talked to everybody, got people liking the product and using it there. It wasn't, bringing in all the revenue, but now it opens it up as we get approved, and we continue to pursue that part to get working with the contractors as well.
Also, as a company that also introduced a new product a few years ago, counting exactly what you're describing, and certainly Brian and I have discussed it as well, we went 2 different routes. There's AASHTO actually has some things in place, one called the AASHTO Innovation Award, where we had a state DOT that's actually in the room today that had been one of our first users. They went to AASHTO and said, this is a product that's been working for us, and had to represent us. And AASHTO gives out an award, which they then publicize to other DOTs, as well as Appel, the AASHTO Product Evaluation List. I don't hear a lot. I don't know if a lot of people pay attention to it. Our first state was New York State, stepped up and said, we've used this product. We're willing to share the evaluations with anyone in the testing that we've done. Maine has since stepped up to say it. Illinois, I believe, has stepped up. So that's another way to sort of third-party independent from you just saying, God, I got a great product, get some of the users, the end users to, through AASHTO, actually nominate you or help recommend it.
Good afternoon. I'm John Buxton, Bridge Maintenance Engineer from the great state of Maine, the great cold state of Maine. It's interesting that Irene spoke to that. The best way to come to approach our state actually is through my office. The maintenance engineers have great flexibility, and we try products. If we like it, we'll actually get purchase agreements, and I can buy $25,000 worth of the product per year. My use of it is going to be reflected back onto the capital program, and if they like it, then they'll take the initiative to use the product and push for it. Also, I think last year at our Northeast Bridge, I think that we had several states that came up that actually had roadmaps on how to do business with the various states, how to get your product on the approved product list, and the roadmap through that process. But your first step should be talking with your bridge maintenance personnel, because those are going to be the first users of that.
I'd like to echo that. In Michigan, as the bridge maintenance engineer for the state, I can try anything I want. And I know how to write a specification to try a specific company's product without making it look like it's a single source specification.
That's such a good point, and I was going to say the very same thing. If you go through our materials people, then your QPLs, writing specifications, we don't have the DOTs, the staff we used to have. We have a very difficult time being able to keep the expertise even to write the specifications. And that's what you need for that full deployment on multiple bid contracts. But if you have something new I'll echo everything everybody said. So with that, we are out of time. That was some excellent discussion, and please give one more hand for all of the speakers and panel members.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.